Okay, the purpose of this video is to show you how to set up options in OL Monitor for the first time right after installing it. So you can start OL Monitor from the desktop icon if you opted to install that, or otherwise you can find it in the All Programs group under OL Monitor VIM. Just click that. First time it starts, it's going to ask you if you would like to test the registry permissions. In certain environments, IT will lock down portions of the registry for security reasons. So this test gives you some information about maybe where you should store your settings. Your settings can be stored to 2 different places in the registry, or alternatively you can use an INI file, which is the best way to circumvent. If you use an INI file, you'll circumvent a lot of those problems. Now, typically when you're installing OL Monitor, you will be installing as an administrator. If you set up these options while you're still logged on as the administrator, which probably you should do, you may not encounter any problems with the settings location. If you're going to deploy OL Monitor as a generic limited rights user, you may run into problems accessing the registry, and you should use an INI file. Alright, so we're going to test the registry. You can see that it says success here. This is my home computer, so that's typical. Alright, first time you start, you'll see some blue lines here, and a box will pop up. It knows that you're setting it up for the first time, and it wants you to fill in some of the essential parts of the options so that it can pull data. So click yes. It tells you the fields in yellow are the essential fields, and here we have the option screen. First one is login, and if you've ever logged in to Sunquest using SmartTerm or a Telnet client, you're familiar with the login prompt, device location. The access code is your Sunquest username and your Sunquest password. So login is usually A lab, or the device location. In our lab it's S lab. Access code. So typically, if you're going to deploy OL Monitor, you would want to set up a very limited rights access code for it to log on. But for now, just to test out, you can use your own access code, and it requires your password, and that's stored encrypted, so no worries there. Alright, hospital ID and worksheet. Just starting out, you can leave these blank. If you have a worksheet that you want to use, you can put that in there. If you're a hospital that has multi-site or multiple hospitals, if you don't put in a hospital ID, you'll get a lot of information, and OL Monitor may choke on all that data. Also, if you're a very large lab, not putting in a worksheet might produce the same problem. Here we have log function. If you have not set up the OL program tag in Sunquest, you need to type in LO. Actually, the macro will automatically try both if you have it wrong, so it's not that big of a deal. This right here allows you to set up some custom prompts. Certain sites have a strange configuration where they maybe have an additional prompt before they're able to log on to their server, and this is what this is for. So let's say that when you log onto your server, before you are able to get to the login and device lock, it has a prompt such as that, and you normally type in something like this. This allows for whatever unexpected prompt to come up and for you to put in whatever you would reply with. If you leave this blank, it has no effect. If you leave the reply blank, it'll just hit enter when it sees that prompt. Otherwise, some people, the macro hangs up on them when they come up, when it comes up and across something like this. Okay, as you might have noticed, when you hover over these options, you get a little information about what it is, and sometimes even the blanks give you extended information, so that's helpful when you're first starting out. Alright, another essential setting, even though it is not highlighted in yellow, is the MIS's server IP, and that should say Sunquest. But now if you know your server IP, you can just type it in, but if you don't, if you have ever used SmartTerm to log on to Sunquest, you can find it by starting up SmartTerm here, and I'll do that right now. Okay, that wasn't what I wanted, but click on connection here, Telnet properties, and there we go. There's your IP address. And you would just type that in here. Very important to have the IP address in there. Let's see. Now here, you don't really have to worry about this now because you're probably setting up it as administrator, but here is where you would tell OM Monitor where to save the settings. And this can be changed at any time, so I don't really have to worry about this right now. But later on, when you go to deploy, you'll probably use this, and you will probably use the export and import options to load up your previously saved configuration. You click OK. OM Monitor is now ready to pull the first overdue log, and you see a countdown here. It hasn't actually started the macro yet until this goes to 0. If you're impatient, you can click Action and Start, and it will go ahead and initiate. It's creating the SmartTerm object, pulling up our SmartTerm file. Alright, so you can see here a little countdown, and it's actually already connected, but the macro is working on its own. It's read your settings and your password and whatnot from the registry, and it's trying to connect to the server. On every refresh, it's going to try to log in and pull an overdue log, and it does this constantly in the background. You can see that it typed in ALAB for the login, which is actually incorrect for that server. And now it's really connecting to a Sunquest server, so you're not going to be able to see it pull a log in this example. Okay, so the first time that you log on and pull some data, you just have to be patient, and it may take up to a minute to pull the first log, especially if you have a lot of data on there. So we don't have any data on the screen yet. Notice down here, this is the message bar. These are not showstopper messages, but if you're having to troubleshoot this can be very useful to scroll through these messages, and just gives you a little information about what's going on. Okay, after it pulls data for the first time, you'll see something like this, and we've got your list of patients. The font here is a little bit hard to read. You may be interested in coloring, but what you can do is change the font here in the options. Let's just make that a little bit bigger. Okay, so we made the font bigger, and I accidentally changed it to black, but that's fine. You can see things a little bit better. You can tweak the font and the background color later on. Okay, that's it.